Newcastle United submit a new €90 million bid for Benjamin Sesko after positive talks with RB Leipzig and the 22-year-old striker today. A growing confidence for Newcastle that the player will be swayed and will join them. Still reports from the likes of Jan Fjortov that Man United are the preferred destination, but the player has to be convinced the club will submit a bid if he chooses them. A big update from Fabrizio Romano as well, but the deal is getting closer. No total agreement as of yet, but the deal is progressing. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. This is big, big news here tonight. Let's do this. Had a little feeling this was going to come tonight. I was going to do a match reaction to the Liverpool game, but I've not been feeling very well. A little bit of a cold coming. It explains the sore neck and the sore throat, actually. I thought I'm going to go to bed. But I saw an update from Craig Hope. I saw an update from Jan Fjortov. And I just knew, I absolutely knew that something in relation to from Ornstein was going to come tonight in regards to Benjamin Sesko. We're going to break that deal down with you all now. We're going to go through it in detail to get your views, your opinions, and thoughts and feelings on it. But as confirmed now by Fabrizio Romano as well, a €90 million offer has been made for Benjamin Sesko to make him a Newcastle United player. Thank you, Luke, for encouraging everybody to hit that like button. It's very, very important that you guys do that. It really is. Evening to Lou. Hope you are well and hope you are good. So I'm going to do, Lou, actually, because you sent me that message earlier. You're a moderator, but I'm going to make you, I've just removed you as a moderator, right? Hang on. And I'm going to add you back as a managing moderator, which means you can okay, no, it doesn't. Yeah, you can do a few extra bits and pieces. There we go. If Rob Ladd's there, we'll get him moderated up tonight as well, people. But look, from my point of view and perspective, there's a lot to break down in this because it is a complicated deal, and it all depends on which way you want to look at this. A few of you are saying that Ben Jacobs has said it's a done deal. I haven't seen that from Ben unless he's live on TalkSport or something like that, and he's come out and said it. But this is what. Has been said by David Ornstein tonight, who broke the news. He said RB Leipzig received improved offer from Newcastle United for Benjamin Sesko. It says the opening bid, as we know, was 80. It was 75 plus 5. He says the new deal will be at least 80 million. Now, Fabrizio has said it is 80 million euros plus 10. I think that's also been confirmed by Jan Fjortov as well now. So it's a 90 million euro bid in totality for the player. Positive talks, and this is the bit that is worrying for me because I want Benjamin Sesko, but very, very positive for Newcastle. Positive talk to the player. And Craig Hope earlier on today, and I'm going to go and get those quotes from him because I think it's very important to bring this whole story together this evening for you. But what Craig Hope earlier on this evening said is that Newcastle were pushing hard to agree a deal with Leipzig for Benjamin Sesko after receiving encouragement today that he wants to join. It's not known what his camp have communicated to Manchester United, and all the outcomes are possible. So the one thing that they haven't done yet, and this is where the door isn't shut for Man United, is Sesko's camp have told a bit more encouraging towards joining Newcastle. Thus, the next bid. We know what Newcastle's strategy is. It's get the bid in, get a deal agreed with Leipzig, and that might sway the player. The player might go, do you know what? You've got the bid in first. You've got the agreement done first. I'm coming to you. That is their strategy. Where United are essentially saying, listen, Sesko, you want to play for us? You prioritize us. As soon as you prioritize us, we will put the bid in. We have told RB Leipzig, though, today, and Fabrizio has just confirmed this. Man United have confirmed again to Leipzig they will make a bid And we have said we would match the offer of Newcastle United if and when the player agrees to sign for us. So I do think it's such an interesting scenario. You've got this element still that hasn't changed now for 3 or 4 days. United won't bid until the player agrees to join, but we have told Leipzig that we will. The player hasn't yet made his mind up because he's worried that Man United won't bid. And I get that. He doesn't want to commit to Man United and then we pivot away from it. It makes absolute sense. It makes absolute sense that the player's sitting there and saying, listen, if we commit to Man United, that's going to make global news. If Man United then pivot away, find somebody else, or decide they want a midfielder instead, or, you know, they go, oh, actually, we've got to listen to Staffy and go buy that, get that Believer deal done now, which they might do because it makes logical sense. Then Sesko's got to go back to Newcastle with his tail between his legs, or maybe by then Newcastle United have signed somebody else. So the situation is in a very, very fragile situation for, I think, all included. But what is telling tonight as a United fan, and we can't ignore this and we shouldn't ignore this, is that Newcastle United are growing in confidence. They've received much more encouragement from RB Leipzig and from the player this evening. And I think that is massively significant. Wow. And a massive update just in here from Ben Jacobs that we need to bring you live on the air. He says, Newcastle United confident on reaching an agreement with Leipzig as revealed earlier. Improved bid made over 80 million with an agreement between the clubs close, as per the title of this video. Newcastle pushing for a quick answer from Sesko, not a saga they want to drag on beyond a matter of days. No formal United bid yet. So listen, Newcastle doing all the legwork here, Newcastle doing all the pushing, and that does make me nervous. I can't sit here and lie. I can't sit here and not tell the truth. I am nervous. I'm feeling a little bit woo. I'm feeling a little bit way because we haven't dropped this new graphic on the show yet, but I get a feeling anytime soon this is dropping. And I don't want that dropping for Man United. Imagine the first one that drops live while we're on the air. Imagine it, right? And it's my club losing out. Do you understand how that's going to make me feel? But look, I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your feelings. I want to get your opinion on this in the comment section below. Oh, Rob's in the chat, is he? My man in the chat. Leave a comment, Rob. Maybe I can see it. Rob, where is Rob? Where are you, Robert? I want to get this done, actually. I want to get this done. Someone said Rob's in the chat. Where's he at then? No, wrong Rob. I love you, Rob, but Rob Ladd. Is he in there? Rob Ladd, we're looking for. You're already a mod. Are you a mod? Are you a mod? Are you a mod? You're not a mod, but Rob Always United. I'm going to make you a mod as well tonight. There we go. You are a mod. Dan here says we are screwed. Look, I'm not going to go as far as say Man United are screwed. We've got a different approach, and that is that we are not bidding until the player agrees to join us. In fairness, we did exactly the same thing with Mbumo, but he agreed to join us much earlier in the saga. Do you remember the bids that were then going in from Tottenham? They said they denied it afterwards, but the bids went in. Turns out that Newcastle also made an offer in that period. Because the player had committed to us, none of us were that worried. Because the player hasn't made his stance clear. So if he came out today and Fabrizio said total agreement, if Ornstein said total agreement with Manchester United and Newcastle were still bidding, I think we'd all be relaxed because we don't know what the player wants yet. I am a little bit worried. I said all along, I feel we are the favourites, but I didn't write Newcastle off. I wouldn't write Newcastle off because this is the transfer window and anything can happen. And I've realised something else I've got to update because I haven't updated the graphic for actually about 8 weeks now on here, is we need to change this Sesko graphic massively. This needs to be changed completely. We need to remove Arsenal because they're not interested anymore. We've got to remove Liverpool because they're not interested anymore. And then we've got to remove, I'm even going to remove Chelsea because they're not interested anymore. So you've got United left, who we're going to put in as high interest. And we're going to add one other club. And that is going to be, of course, we're going to add Newcastle United, who also have a high interest in the player. So we'll update that so you can see it on the screen. It's basically us two in the race now. So I didn't get the update before. So there we go. That's updated. So I wouldn't necessarily say Man United are screwed right now, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not sitting here going, no worries, people, stay relaxed. It's no problem. I was like that with the Mbumo deal. I'm not with this one. I'm really not. Andy here says United are skint. They are hoping to get him for 50 million. That's just all nonsense. I thank you for the comment, but I'm not going to go into it because that isn't what's been broadcast at all. 90 million. What does that say here? 90 million is a dream for Sesko. Definitely his agent in Newcastle right now. Did Sesko agree to go to Newcastle? No, that hasn't. Jez. Oh, sorry, Jez. You said no, he hasn't. Absolutely, he hasn't agreed for that right now. Terry, I feel you're gossip mongering. Well, that's a really weird thing to say. This is breaking news from multiple journalists. Everything I'm telling you is the truth as far as they have said. So yeah, gossip. You can call it that, but there we go. Abdul here says, Terry, you're dodging a bullet. Be happy. 13 league goals in the Bundesliga for 90 million euros. Listen, I understand where you're coming from. And for somewhere along the line, though, we've lost something in football. And what we've lost in football is this element of is this sort of element of you're buying potential. Now, I get there are some teams like Arsenal this summer, they wanted a ready-made player, and there is a market for that. But what's happened to buying these young players that are on the up and up, who have got this really high ceiling that could become superstars? These players have always cost money. I don't see it as dodging a bullet. I think this is a phenomenal talent, and I want him at Manchester United. I think there's a great, great player in there. That old chestnut. Yeah, I mean, but it's the truth, though. Terry, can United afford 90 million whilst wanting a new goalkeeper and a midfielder? Well, you've got to remember, again, that's 90 million euros, which I specified at the beginning. So in terms of pounds, you're looking there at 78 million. It's around 68 to 70 million pounds to begin with, plus add-ons. So can Manchester United afford that? Yes, we've already stated to RB Leipzig that we can. That is only going to cost, if you remove, you're talking around 70 million as a base fee. 70 million, you divide that by 5 years, that's 14 million pound. United have raised over 20 million pound through the sell-on clauses of players. All we need year one to pay Leipzig is around 14 million pounds. Can Man United afford it this year? Absolutely. So I'm not worried or concerned about that. We don't need 70 odd million pounds in cash in the bank to buy the player. That's not a concern. That's not a worry to me personally. Sesko has not picked his team yet. Haaland would be over 100 million if he didn't have a buyout clause. Well, this is also the way you've got to look at this. You actually look at strikers. Gyökeres was so cheap because, one, he had a buyout clause and a gentleman's agreement. Otherwise, he's a 100 million pound plus player. You look at what it's going to cost to get, and this is what's crazy, right? So you want to do the pounds example. Isak got 13 league goals last year, so 10 more. He's probably going to cost somewhere in the region of 135 million. That's 155 million. It's 155 million euros. Okay. So you divide that by 2, you're talking about just a similar, but you're talking about a price that's almost double that of Sesko for a player that, by the way, scored 10 more goals. So you've got to put it all into perspective. What 70 million pounds gets you now isn't what you got for 70 million pounds 10 years ago, isn't what you got for 70 million pounds 20 years ago. And it's important that we factor that in. The very best strikers in the world who are at the peak of their powers and have many years ahead of them, they're all being sold for anywhere between 120 and 200 plus million pound each. Mbappe's, Haaland's, Isak's as an example. So again, the money really isn't too much of a concern for me. And Nicholas Jackson, pack your bags, you're heading to United. I really hope not. The boys in the group chat are saying that. It's funny because Ches asked me tonight, like, what am I going to say if they get Jackson? And this is my message to all the Chelsea fans winding us up. What I'm going to do if Man United sign Nico Jackson, when you ask me to talk about him, I'm just going to play all your prop from the last 2 years, all the positive things you said about him. I'm just going to play your clips, and then you guys can go, yeah, Terry's right. Sorry, I took a bit of a sore throat. I'm just spraying that in there so that I can talk. United should not bid for a player who hasn't chosen them. It's from Sam. Sam, I agree with you, mate. Sam, I 110% agree with you, Sam. I wouldn't bid for the player until he chooses us. I understand why Newcastle were doing what they're doing because they weren't the favourites. Newcastle United were not the favourites. They're not the player's preferred choice. And I think that that's a really, really important distinction for football fans to understand. I think it's a very, very important distinction for football fans to understand that that's why Newcastle are going down this road. It doesn't always work out for the club that's doing that early bidding, but it might in this scenario. It may at this point actually work for Newcastle United and turn out to be a fantastic piece of business for them. If they're able to do it, it's a coup. It would mean that United are going to get rejected. It's an excellent player. I think it will give them a huge boost. Abdul here says, Terry, you're not buying potential. You are buying him to come in and score goals now, not in 3 years. There's no patience. What does it say? There's no patience for your starting striker. Well, there's patience from me. So I don't want Man United to not make the right decisions because we've got some really insubordinate, immature online fans. Imagine your whole club policy is dictated by people like that, especially the ones who have no face and no name. That's just crazy to me. We are getting a player that's going to come in and play straight away, like Wayne Rooney. But Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, again, I'm not saying Sesko's as good, but I'm using them as famous examples of young players that we brought into the football club. They came in to start and play in the team straight away, but we also knew that they would get better over time. You don't just buy young players and go, right, you wouldn't buy buying Believer would improve Man United in the here and now, the same as Sesko would. But it's about what Believer's going to be in 4 or 5 years' time. Same when Chelsea bought Caicedo. Yes, he was a fantastic midfielder, but he wasn't being purchased there and then for everything he could do at that moment. It's what was to come. This is football. Sophie B here says, like Liverpool fans this summer. yeah. Listen, I hear you. How you doing, Sophie? Sophie, how excited are you about this potential news that has come out? How excited are you about this potential news? I'd love to hear from you on that. Let's do some more of your comments here. I'm going to get Tom Little on with me in a few moments' time. The son of a bitch. He's here probably to celebrate. I know exactly why he's here, the old son of a gun. I know exactly why he's here. I know. No one can get confident over this. Do you know what, Soph? I absolutely agree with you. I think you're spot on. I believe United are the favourites, and I'm sort of confident we can get him. I rephrase what you say. I don't think anyone could be overconfident. I think it's fine if United fans think it will happen, but what I wouldn't do is start disrespecting Newcastle, Tin Pot Club. Why would he pick you? Equally, right now, if I was a Newcastle fan, I wouldn't get ahead of myself either, because there are those pesky little things called football gods that consistently come to bite people in the backside. But development and potential isn't linear. Rasmus had a decent first season, very poor second season, and you've given up on him. But you've got to understand why I've given up on him, Abdul. So what you're doing is you're doing a little bit of what I call a staffy in 2025, and you're ignoring the rationale behind why we need to move on from him. It was my exact same reasons as to why I felt we had to change managers. We bought a player for a manager who then wasn't trying to implement the system that the players he was buying, the profiles that he was identifying profiles to play a system, but a system that he wasn't actually implementing. That all went to pot, and went arse over tit. The club was toxic and full of player power. Lots of players regressed. So therefore, my view is that we need to start again. And I think we need to strip out nearly everything at the club, including the manager, 85 to 90% of the squad that I said. So it wasn't just about he had a bad year, get rid of him. It wasn't along those lines. It was a case of everything was tarnished. Let's clear the vast majority of it out and we start again. When you actually look at young players that have been purchased at this club since that point, like Lenny Yoro, like Heaven, I've seen them progress. Xerxes came in. I've seen him progress. Ahmad last season, I saw him progress and become a much better player. We're watching him yesterday. Yes, there was a few mistakes, but you can see with the new quality coming in, he's a player that is going to progress. Dorgu's come in. It's a very difficult start for him, but he has got better. And he's had an excellent preseason so far, and I'm excited about what he will do. So from my point of view and perspective, I don't think it's as simple as just saying, I get your point that progression and potential isn't linear, but Man United are in a position where we can buy someone that isn't, it's very hard for us to get this thing of a win now ready-made player who's also at the elite of his game. Gyökeres may have picked us if we were in the Champions League, but we're not. and he wants Champions League football at his age. There are younger players that will look at United and go, I want to be part of helping to rebuild that. And we need to help them too. But yes, so I understand that there isn't a guarantee that he'll get better. And that's a risk we're taking. And no one knows that more than I. But I want to take the risk. I think it's a risk worth taking. We could buy Belieber and he go backwards. Because let's be right about it. Caicedo's gone the way we all thought he would. But we all used to all say Basuma was amazing as well, didn't we? Remember what everyone used to say about Basuma? He hasn't gone the same way as Caicedo. He just stagnated. You could go and buy a Belieber, and in 2 years' time go, fucking hell, it's Basuma. I remember having debates with people because there was a couple of players. One of them was Ruben Neves, who unfortunately went to Saudi, and I don't mean that rudely to the Saudis, but I'd like to see him stay in Europe. Everyone now, if you had the choice now, Basuma or Ruben Neves, I think most people would still take Ruben Neves. There was a time where I was laughed at for thinking that, Basuma is the next big thing. Now everyone laughs at him as a signing. So yeah, look, I just look at it from that point of view and perspective. You know, I remember when we signed Morgan Schneiderlin, everyone, including me, were like, wow, what a player. It didn't work out, you know? So just because everybody rates a player when he's signed versus, I'm unsure on him, we've all got, we're all just predicting. It's a little bit of a guess whether he gets better or not. I'm prepared to take the risk though, Abdul, and I'm honest about that, you know? Oh, he's back again here as well. Last one I'm going to do from you, and I'm going to speak to some other people. What is it you said? Where's it gone? You're assuming that Ineos wouldn't have signed Rasmus. His stats were similar to that. Well, this is the thing. This is what I won't do. I'm not going to blame Ineos for something they didn't do. That's crazy, Abdul. That's ridiculous logic. I'm gonna blame. Imagine this. I'm going to be angry at Ineos for a player they didn't sign because there is a possibility in a different universe that they would have signed him. Like, think about that. Just think about that. Like, do you know what we're going to do, Abdul? We're going to put you in prison because there's a possibility that in the right scenario, in the right situation, in the right moment, you might kill someone one day. What the fuck are you talking about? Come on. Let's be sensible. Let's be sensible here. But look, an update just for everyone who's tuning in, because I think we've gone through a lot already. There's a lot of comments that are flying in here this evening. So a big update for you all. And then we're going to start going to some of your calls as well. So the update is from David Ornstein. A new bid has gone in. It's 80 million euros plus 10 in add-on. So 90 million in totality for Benjamin Sesko. The real positive factor for Newcastle United is they are said to be feeling very positive and encouraged. One by Leipzig, who right now, it says, currently favour Newcastle United. And of course they would. They've put 90 million euros up where United have made no official bid. The player hasn't made a decision, but according to Craig Hope and according to Ornstein, he has shown some further encouragement that he would pick them. That all being said, what's Man United's plan? What is Manchester United's response? This has been consistent from Ben Jacobs and from Fabrizio that have both updated tonight. And that is United have told Leipzig again, they will bid. They will bid an acceptable amount, but they are waiting for the player to make his decision. They will not formally bid until the player prioritizes Manchester United. That is the approach that we, Man United, are going for. Now, my call to you guys is, do you think that's right? Do you think that is wrong? Is that the correct way for Manchester United to approach this? And who do you see coming out on top? How do you see this deal going? And again, there are a few people, because I've seen Staffy tweet this actually, that he actually thinks this is a bit, again, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but we're dodging a bullet here. Just take that money and go and buy a Belieber. I'd love to get some more comments like that. I'd love to know what you all think and feel. But that is the latest update as things stand right now. There is a little bit of breaking news as well that I am going to go and get for you in just a moment's time. Let's take a little look at this. Now, this is a personal opinion from Alex Crook rather than breaking news, but he says, personally think the money is now getting too high now for Man United for another unproven Premier League player. Let's see what they do. And that is, again, a fair take. Now, I disagree with it because I've rated Sesko for a long time. Go back and look at what I said when he was linked to Arsenal, when he was linked to Liverpool. I would love him at Manchester United, but I understand this take and I understand this view and I understand this perspective 110%. That being said, will it cost Manchester United as much if the player picks us? Because and this is one thing that Fabrizio has been very consistent about, very honest about, and very direct with. The bids right now are unimportant because the player hasn't made his mind up. So there is a scenario, and by the way, we've seen this summer already. Tom, tell me if I'm right or wrong in saying this. Was it with Ekitike or was it with João Pedro where Newcastle bid more than the club that actually won the player? I swear there was one of those scenarios with Liverpool, wasn't it? Yeah. So Newcastle put a higher bid into Frankfurt than Liverpool ended up paying for Hugo Ekitike. So just using that as a case in point and as an example, if the player says tonight, and I do think we're going to get a decision very, very imminently from the player, if he says, I want Man United, I only want Man United, I won't join Newcastle, I'm dedicating myself to them, it changes things slightly. But I do get Alec Crook's point, and a lot of you in the comments agree with it. A lot of you watching, a lot of you tuning in are saying, no, he's absolutely right. You're saying Man United shouldn't pay more. And again, I can appreciate that point of view and that perspective. I can. Some super chats here to go to. First one says 90 million euros is 78 million. It's 19 again. So over 4 years. Well, United will amortize that money over a 5-year period, or will depreciate over a 5-year period. Plus, that's 90 million, including the add-ons. So the add-ons are not achieved unless Man United, it will be both for Newcastle and Man United, it will be players scoring this amount of goals back in the Champions League. So actually what you're talking about here is 80 million euros of the base fee, which is around 69 million pounds. So even if we were to divide that over a 4-year period, that comes in at around 17 million. United have still raised enough money to get that done, my friend. Newcastle were trying to do what United did with Euro. Yep, similar, but Man United already had an agreement with Euro. We didn't bid until the player had already decided to join us, I think. And I might be mistaken about that. And if I am, let me know. Let me know in the comment section. For goodness sake, he's not a 90 million pound player. Well, he's not a 90 million pound player. He'll be a 78. He'll be around about 69 million will be the fee. 69 million is the base fee. So it's not 90 million pound, it's 69. Massive difference in them prices. Don't see how we don't know what he wants. Come or not, let's sure, you pick up the phone and say, Sesko, do you want us or not? I understand that perspective. I understand that point of view. It isn't always as simple as that. It isn't always as easy as that. It isn't always that simple in the sense of, and again, someone who's worked at quite a high level of business to business sales, sometimes you don't want to come across desperate. So if Man United are picking up the phone every day, you're picking us. God, they've called 4 or 5 times. Why are they so desperate? That view of desperation can often cost you, the player. So that's just one outcome and scenario. There are times, Lukaku, Chelsea lost him because they didn't call him enough over the course of the summer. So it can go the other way. But if he's also said, guys, look, I want 3, 4, 5 days to make my mind up, it stands to reason that you want to give him that time and that space to do it, because you don't want to burn the potential signing in that regard. I think you need to be very, very careful of that. I think you'll be very, very careful of that when you're kind of breaking that down and when you're going through it and when you're trying your best to secure the player. I think you just need to be, as I say, I think you'll be very, very mindful of that. I hope Newcastle get him. We need 2 top central midfielders. Well, it'll be interesting to see what Man United pivot to, because we've prioritized Sesko. Can we now go to a Mateta or a Watkins? Will that work? Will that even work at this particular stage and point? You know, with the kind of money we're talking about, maybe a pivot to a central midfielder or 2 would make a little bit more sense. That would mean Rasmus staying for the season, though. What I would like to see from the people that want the midfielders first is assurities that you will be relaxed if we don't score enough goals because we haven't bought a striker. That's my only ask of you all. The same as I'm going to be relaxed. I'll criticize the midfielders being bad, but I understand we haven't bought much in midfield. I'll know our midfield isn't going to be great. I understand the strategy, which is strikers first, probably midfielders second. So because I'm saying I understand it, I'm not going to sit there and go, I don't understand what they were doing. Well, we know what we're doing. I know, I get the approach. I might say the approach was wrong if it backfires. It doesn't mean I don't understand it. Fundamental distinction. Sesko doesn't want to say he only wants United, as that would blow his chance with Newcastle if it turns out we don't have enough money. Well, that's exactly what's being printed. That's exactly what's being said right now. So that's probably what United have got to do. Equally, there is part of me that sits there and thinks, well, if you don't trust us, if we're saying to you, listen, man, if we're saying to you, we want to bring you in, and you're going, I don't know whether they've got the money. Part of me as a United fan does think, well, if you don't trust us at this point, see you later. I'm only responding to your point here, but yeah. United have been a career killer for years. Sesko should choose Newcastle. Their striker has doubled in value. United give away players on loan. It's a very, very good point. And for many, many years, the players that we've bought have been atrocious, and we've sold them all a loss. The one key caveat and rebuttal I have to that is under new management. Because you could say the same thing. Why would someone join Newcastle based on how they used to be run? What United could turn around and show is all the players we bought last year and how many of them are starting to thrive and progress and are important parts of this team. There are some that I don't think we maybe should have got. You know, I get people's points on Ugarte. Now, in terms of what we need, in terms of progressing the ball, he hasn't been able to do it so far. Outside of that, I'm still quite happy with all the signings that we've made. But I do get your point. That didn't happen. Newcastle never made the last bid. I'm pretty sure. I'm only going by what I remember reading something about him, my friend. Watkins still a good option for United from a Newcastle fan. Tom, listen, I agree. If we end up with Watkins, I've said all along, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be panicked about that. By the way, people, around 4,000 people watching, which is amazing. But can you get that like button smashed for us now? Let's get this to 2,000 likes whilst we're live, please, people. This is about Euro. Lil accepted our bid, and then we smoothed him and his family until he accepted. Lil also helped persuade. Do you know what? Now that you've said that, you're absolutely right. I got that wrong. You're spot on, mate. No, I do remember that now. It's just not it's an atypical way to approach transfers. It's typically not how they are done in the modern day game. Yeah, so if I agree, I think Euro is looking like an excellent player. So there's progression there. There's no doubt. With wages, it will be 120 million euros all in. Yes, it will. But again, listen. If you start adding the salaries in of what Liverpool's and the cities are spending, you're seeing even higher. Because remember, their wage bills are higher than everybody else's, and a lot of that is because of the bonuses, and they're more successful, so they pay out even more. That's just part of it, you know. At the end of the day, it's whether or not you trust your scouts, and that's the one thing I would say here. The players that we've gone after this summer, I don't think have been. They've been, you could argue they've been obvious, but look at the teams that wanted them as well. Most of the time, like we kind of rave about, like Newcastle since their takeover. Look how many good players have bought and taken a bit of a risk on. Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Isak, that other people didn't want to, and how good they've been. So, listen, I just really think this is my fear, right, of not getting Sesko. Is in 2 or 3 years' time, we're looking at him and we're going, fuck me, he should have been ours. I've just got this horrible feeling. I hope, by the way, if we don't get him, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he flops. I hope we look back and go, thank God we dodged that bullet. Although it will make me wonder about our talent ID and how we think we're going to progress and move forward. Stop pocket watching. If they can afford it within their budget, then so be it. So long as it's not illegal money. It's not about pocket watching. It's about getting It's really funny because I was getting into this earlier with Staffy and a few others about Chelsea being good sellers. And if you actually notice, by and large, most of the good sales that Chelsea have done where they've made a profit have been from players they bought at the right prices and on quite low wages and were able to move on. You look at a lot of their big money signings under Clear Lake, or the players that will put on massive money, they've had to sell them all at a loss or they can't sell them. You could probably show João Felix is probably the one example that doesn't quite work for. So getting players at the right money is key, and you should pocket watch to a certain extent. The biggest and the best clubs in the world do that. United have a 25% reduction in player wages not being in the Champions League. Absolutely. Listen, that's why I said last year, yes, we missed out on 100 million of Champions League money, but I think we saved a massive percentage of that by the players getting a massive salary decrease, plus a big percentage of that revenue gets taken up by actually having to host the games, pay for police, staff it, etc. So you don't lose 100 million. What you actually end up losing is somewhere nearer to 25 million, which is not great. You'd rather have that money, but it isn't like in terms of bottom line that you can actually spend it's a little bit different. It's not as much as people actually think, but there we go. With nothing but failure for Newcastle and their plastic fan base. What do you mean by plastic? The one thing I'd say about Newcastle fans, whether they annoy you or not, they're not plastics, man. Come on. Let's be sensible here. Let's be real here. They're not a plastic fan base. They're far from plastic, in my personal and humble opinion, my friend. They're far from plastic. They really are. They really are. Leipzig is using their heads. They know United's strategy. They don't want to wait. They know Newcastle are desperate for their... I hate when this moves. They know that Newcastle are desperate, so they're playing with them for upping the fee. This is true. This is... Leipzig are doing a very good job here of getting that money up. Very, very good job indeed. You can't... Nobody can deny that. It's an absolute fact what you just put out there, my friend. Fact. Terry, I think Sesko is waiting for Man United to make a move, show some interest, and then he'll show interest by handing a transfer request. I believe he wants United. Then it's about them both trusting each other, Jesse. Then Man United and the player have got to trust each other. Then I think they've got to sort of come together properly and get it done. It shouldn't take an official bid. If Man United, this is the way I view it. If Man United say to him, look, do you want to play for us? And he says yes. If he says yes, but you got to bid first, we should say we will bid once you commit to us. And once we can once we can put it out there publicly that you've committed to us, then we'll bid. If the player says, I don't trust you, I say we walk away. That would make me want to walk away if he doesn't trust us. You know? Because that's what I would do. If I said to Tom Little, do you want to come to America next year for the World Cup? We'll pay for your accommodation and your flights. Oh, can you pay for it now? Yeah, but you got to commit. Why? Well, I know you've been offered to go out with another YouTube company and I want you to commit to us first and then we'll pay it. If he went, I'll pay it and then I'll commit, I'll say, well, you don't trust me. I'll say, go with the other people. See you later. Like, because I'd expect him to trust me. If you don't trust me, I've done nothing ever to warrant him not trusting me. And this is hypothetical. So I'd say, bon voyage. Enjoy it with somebody else. That sounds like a date then. It's not a date, it's work. But yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's a crazy one. Terry, would you take Ramos at United? He can be reunited with his Portuguese teammates. I was really interested in him. 20, 21, 22. He hasn't progressed how I thought he would. And listen, there are a lot of people online that like to pretend like they only guess players that are going to be good, right? And they don't ever get anything wrong. That's just a load of old nonsense. We all get loads of things right. We all get loads of things wrong. He was one of my wrong ones. I never thought he'd be world class. I never thought he'd be the greatest striker in the world or anything, but I really did think he'd be better than he is now. That being said, does the way PSG really suit him? Is it really the way to get the best out of him? I'm not too sure personally. I'm not too sure. Right, we're going to take some calls. We've got Tom Little coming on with me first to have his say this evening. Let me just get my earphones in so I can bring my man in. Hit that like button for us, please, people. If you haven't done so already, get yourself subscribing. But Tom Little is here with me. Good evening, mate. Thanks for wearing a shirt that matches the set tonight. It looks brilliant. What's your thoughts on this tonight? Second bid from Newcastle, 90 million in totality. United saying they will bid, but want player commitment first. Break it down for me how you see it.
I see it as Leipzig kind of pushing Sesko to hurry up and make his decision. The fact that Newcastle weren't 100% confident, so they're trying to push Leipzig into making Sesko make the decision before United can put it all together. I mean, I saw before that some Newcastle journalist, I think it was Keith Downey, said that the change in this bid was that all the money is paid up front. So all the 70 million that's going to be guaranteed is paid up front in one go, which is a big change. And I can see why the deal is now advanced to that point, because if you can get 70 million up front for a player who doesn't have a release clause, you're looking at that going, oh, I'll have a bit of that. So I do wonder if United can match that term. If they can, they're going to have to do it quick. I do think Sesko prefers United. But I think he gets sorted tomorrow. I think we know where he's going tomorrow. I think that it's going to be put into his hands, and he's going to have to decide whether he's going to gamble on waiting for United or go with the surefire option of Newcastle. And because I think he's such a fantastic striker, I've never said a bad word about him. I hope he goes Newcastle, and he's much better than Alexander Isak. And they have to, move him on for obvious reasons to some club in the Northwest.
Yeah, no, I hear that, mate. I totally get where you're coming from, and I think that it's such an interesting situation. It really is. You've got Leipzig one end, you've got Newcastle's agenda, you got United that's got their approach, and I wish Man United weren't in the middle of this, and I wish we weren't in the middle of this, because it's one of these situations where I'm enjoying watching it. The problem is I might be on the back end of a painful decision, if that makes sense. And I don't want to be, so it's heavily frustrating in that way. There's some more breaking news we're going to bring to you right now, people. Let's go and take a look. Now, this has just come out from Ben Jacobs, who says the 48-hour deadline for a resolution set on Monday morning remains. Newcastle are pushing for clarity and forcing both Sesko to decide, and indirectly Manchester United to either bid or walk away. So, but what's interesting here, again, Newcastle were saying Monday mornings, let's just say 9 a.m. to make it round. You've got until 9 a.m. Wednesday morning to make a decision. What happens if Sesko doesn't? So this is my question to Newcastle fans. So just purely for Newcastle fans in the chat that we can talk to here. I need to make sure I say this in the right way. What if
Sesko just doesn't follow the deadline? What if Sesko just doesn't give you an answer by the deadline?
I was reading the message, right? If Sesko doesn't follow the deadline, what do Newcastle do then? Like, genuinely, what do Newcastle do then? And I put that out there. And what do you want your club to do? So do you want your club to extend that deadline? Do you want your club to say, now you're taking the piss, we put bids in, you won't commit, we're pivoting away? Like Sophie here says, move on, shit happens. Deck says, walk away, need players, is what he says here. I just sort of look at it and think to myself, nah, for me, that's the issue when you set a deadline. I used to work with a guy, right? Uche, I hope you're good. I love this guy. We're working this payments team. It's just before I quit banking to do this full time. And he was getting all these offers from these big fintechs, and they fell through. And he was like, I'm going to get a pay rise out of the company though now, because he missed out on a job that was like 180 grand a year, just missed out. And he was like, he basically went up to our bosses and he said, he was like, I've been offered this job, it's 120k a year, match it as I'll leave, right? And I think he got up to 85, 90 out of this company, and they wouldn't match it. And he ended up leaving. He was like, I'm going to a new job, and he left. He was going to no job. He bluffed and he had to leave. But he's doing very, very well for himself now. But I always remember thinking, that takes balls of steel. He goes, I can't back down now and just stay on less money. He goes, that makes me look, he said, mainly that would make me look like a liar. Because who's turning down 85,000? Who's accepting 85,000 for a brilliant company offering 120,000? No one would do that in their right mind. He goes, I can't make him, I'll look bad, right? I'll look weak. So he had to stick to it, and he left. And maybe Newcastle got to do that. And again, I kind of hope they do, but maybe that's also part of the strategy here. I'm just throwing it out there as another potential outcome and another potential scenario as well. What do you think they should do, mate?
I mean, it's an arbitrary deadline, isn't it? If he's the top target at this point, and the notion is, if they're gonna the Benjamin Sesko deal is the replacement for Isak, and the replacement for Isak is a guy who's young and fits all these different profiles, and Sesko is like the only real option there in their eyes. If he just doesn't follow the deadline, Newcastle are kind of just stuck there, because the pivot options like Gonzalo Ramos, who isn't as good and doesn't have the potential. But if they stay in it and go, we'll extend the deadline, then Sesko might just feel he can take the piss a bit and start changing demands and start, waiting and buying United more time to get it done. I get why the deadline's been set, because Newcastle kind of want a decision made quickly in order to stop United from making a move, but it'd only really work if it was like Leipzig pushing for that deadline as well, which I don't necessarily think they are, because ideally for them, United get involved and start bidding money as well, so a bit of a bidding war coincide. So I'm a little bit just sort of confused about the whole deadline point. Like I know on a base level why they've done it, but you actually dive into it, it's a bit sort of thin and a bit sort of weird. And I mean, for United, I think it's just a case of, if you're that dead certain on Benjamin Sesko as the guy for the next however many years, the bid should be going in by now. It should have went in. I don't see the point in this whole, we'll wait for him to pick us, because what you then doing is open the doors for him to go.
But that's also about, do you know what I think it is? I hear you, mate. Sorry to interject. Do you know what that is? That's the club the one. I mean, I've asked the club to do this, so I've got to at the very least stand by and see if it works in the short term. We have set, and we've gone public this year and said we will not bid for players that don't commit to the club. So if we now bid before he commits, we've gone back on what we said we would do. And the same thing, I've got the same energy for my club as Newcastle. When you start going back on your word, we've done this so many times, Man United, so many times. And I remember how embarrassed we were when we didn't get Sancho first time around, because there was this, what all came out is that Woodward was just like, don't worry, there's no deadline. We're going to bid at this point, this amount. I've been informed this will get it done. And it didn't. And we looked weak and stupid. And I think that sends a message to your players. It sends a message. Well, imagine what the Newcastle players or the Man United players will start to think, especially Man United here, when we go, it's a new world, it's a new dawn. We will not be bullied. We will not be pushed around. Players will commit to us before we bid. Oh, there's a bid. We told you, Benjamin, there's a bid. What are the players in that dressing room going to think? They're going to go, hang on, all the stories you've told us are a fucking lie. You guys aren't changing. You're doing the same thing. This super chat here says, this feels like United have a bit more than we can chew here. Would have thought the Vavell relationship would have been the decider, but clearly not. Bit off more than they could chew. Potentially, I've said it already, I'll be heavily criticizing Vavell if he can't help get this deal over the line, because he knows the players so well. This year says Sesko will wait for the deadline to expire if he wants United. That way, he is not the bad guy for Leipzig if they fall short a few million. Interesting.
I mean, I'm just confused on the United point of view. And so I get, like, we want players who are committed to the club before we bid for them. But then you're in a stalemate now, because Benjamin Sesko wants proof that you're committed to him before he commits to you. And it's like this whole circle that's not going to happen, because all it is right now is someone's word. You've said we will match a bid. There's not really anything beyond that. But that won't happen unless he gives the commitment. But he won't give the commitment unless he's got a guarantee that you'll bid. And all you said is, yeah, we'll bid, which doesn't really mean much. So the worry for United, if he's your number one target, is with this mindset, it's going to be a case of...
Ornstein just tweeted. I was like, oh, no, it's nothing to do with any of us. It's to do with the Bournemouth buying a goalkeeper, Neto. Yeah. Selling a goalkeeper, Neto. Yeah, sorry.
So what it ultimately comes down to is United could sit there, and Sesko could sit there and go, if you're not committed to me, they are. They're ready and they're desperate for me. So I'll go somewhere where I'm valued.
But again, you can't say that about Sesko. If we look at his track record, the way he's always behaved with his agents, he did it. He did the same thing to Arsenal. We went and they gave a bid and everything. His agents were like, we're not going to push. The agents literally said, we're not going to push. We're just going to wait for Leipzig to do what they want to do. And Leipzig are a stubborn club to bargain with. So even though Newcastle is showing interest, and even though United is a massive club that can actually go in as well and show interest or even put the money down, Sesko, to me, I just smell that he's going to stay at Leipzig one more season. I just have this weird feeling that he's going to do what he did last season. Again, he's going to find a ridiculous reason. Today, I saw a clip with Fabrizio talking about he's with his agent and his family and discussing with everybody on what the move will be. I just have this weird feeling because Newcastle can't depend on one striker next season. If Isak stays, that's if Isak stays. They still have to get a second striker regardless. If Isak, that means they need to get two strikers.
Yeah, Isak ain't staying, man. I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna. Yeah,
they need to get two strikers. Regardless.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get Wissa. I think Wissa comes regardless of who else.
So it'd be great for them to do like 90 million and then do another striker that is a top-notch striker for that price. Well, of course, they'd have sold Isak and had some money in their pocket for them to do that. But
I mean, I think their plan is just Sesko and Vissa, and then if it's not that, it'll be Vissa and Ramos.
But if you look at it for pounds wise, if they get 120 million for Isak and end up spending a combined 110 million pound on Vissa and Sesko, I don't think that's bad business.
But it's still, I think it's a step back, man, Terry. It's a step back. If you lose Isak, which I think they will, I'm not saying they're not. I'm not, it doesn't make a difference to me. If they lose Isak and they get Sesko and Wissa is, very decent striker. Let's be honest. He understands the Premier League. He has an experience in the Premier League. I think Sesko coming in will at least need maybe the first few games to try to regulate and get into the game and all that. And at Newcastle, Sesko does not have the qualities there at Newcastle. So I think he'll be successful, but I just still think it's a step back from Isak.
It is, but I think it's a case for Newcastle where it is we have to take a step back in one position to take steps forward in multiple positions.
I agree. I'm just even just talking about that one position. That's just a lot. Like, to me, that's.
Plus, I think the Vissa deal kind of goes a little bit under the radar. Like, Johan Vissa got like 17 or 18 goals last season. That's someone who can put in to that Newcastle team and get you. I'm not saying he'll be as good as Isak, but I'm saying he can get you a goal return close to what Isak was getting last season. He was only like 5 goals off Isak last year, and Isak took pens. So if you put him into that Newcastle team with, no offense to Brentford, but better players around him, you might see, he handles it a lot better, and it gives Sesko the chance to fit in properly without that pressure.
No, I totally agree with that. Boys, look, we are at the end of the show. I was actually going to go to bed an hour ago, and I'm glad I didn't. But thank you for coming on. I want to thank all of our super chatters. I'm going to redirect you to the United stand, to Mark Goldbridge, who is live right now. So whether you're a United fan, Newcastle fan, or a rival, go check out what he's got to say right now on the United stand. Mark and I are both live tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. on the Football Terrace. It'd be great to see you all back here then. I get a feeling there'll be a big update by then as well. It feels like this is going to start moving quickly. Gentlemen, thanks for calling in. Thank you to everyone who's liked the show, everyone who's subscribed. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. Go check out Goldbridge's show now, people. Go show him some love over there. Let him know it's a Football Terrace raid as well. And we'll see you all soon. Peace.